Welcome to the user training of ordering labs with EMR-Link 2.0. My name is Pat Wolfram and I'm with Ignis Systems. In this session we'll cover the workflow of ordering a lab with EMR-Link 2.0 and two new features, the auto-splitting of orders into separate recs and the courtesy copy of other care providers. We'll pick up the workflow in the EMR's custom order list. The physician first highlights the diagnosis for which the tests are being ordered, in this case diabetes. Next he chooses from his custom list pap smear, a cholesterol, and a hemoglobin. When the order is signed, it triggers the EMR-Link to evaluate whether the patient's insurance requires a medical necessity check, and the EMR-Link form will inform the doctor that the ABN check in this case is not required for this insurance. So the physician's work is done. He's ordered the tests and been informed that the ABN is not required. The nurse is now in the exam room to perform the draw. The nurse clicks the View Requisition button and pulls up the rec. All of the EMR order information is now available in the EMR-Link order completion screen, and the lab's order codes and order rules have been applied to the order. We'll review those in detail in just a minute. This pop-up indicates that the order has been automatically split due to different test categories in the order. We'll click through the pop-up. Now let's take a look at the screen. In the upper left, you see patient demographics data, and we'll look deeper into that in a moment. Patient insurance information, where the order is being sent, order details, you'll see new lab specific order codes for the pap smear, specimen information, we'll look at more of that in a minute, printing of the requisitions, and today's orders. Now, let's look at each of those information fields. You'll first expand the patient information. Here you can make changes or enter required data. Next, we'll look at the insurance information. It's summarized here, but you can expand it to look at the underlying details, again to edit or add required data. Next, let's look at the order details. The pap smear test description in the EMR has been mapped to the specific new lab order code 009100. The authorizing provider has come from the EMR, and we've applied the MPI number so the lab can uniquely identify the physician. The red banner on top says there's missing data for some required fields. So let's go add that AOE information required for this test. These AOE questions are specific to the lab that this order has been routed to. If the patient's insurance had required that this order route to a different lab, the AOE questions will likely be different. The questions and answers now become part of the printed rec and part of the electronic order that gets sent to the lab. Now, let's add a comment and hit OK. Next, let's earmark another care provider to be courtesy copied with these lab results. So we'll go up to the order details and choose that provider. EMR-Link remembers providers we've copied in the past and completes the name and the MPI fields for us. When we hit OK, that too becomes part of the requisition. Now you're ready to collect the specimen if you haven't already and to print the requisition. Let's look at the print options. The Send to Lab button is used when you've collected the specimen and you're ready to print the rec. This also prints a label to attach to the specimen container. We'll look at that label in a second. When you print, EMR-Link also sends the order electronically to the lab, so at the lab they don't have to hand enter the order information. The names of these buttons and the instructions under them are up to you. I've chosen Send to Lab, but you can name it something else. Send Patient to PSC is used when the patient should go to the Patient Service Center to have the lab drawn. Further down you can select your printer options. Once chosen, these settings are remembered. Now, let's print the rec. The first thing we'll look at is the label. And this is what New Lab likes to see on theirs. Next, let's look at the printed rec. This is created to the specification of the lab, and the format and the content varies from lab to lab. Let's zoom in for a second and look at the two pieces of information we added a second ago, the courtesy copy of Kelly Starr and the comments added during the draw. Now, let's return to the order completion page and complete the other half of the split requisition for the cholesterol and the hemoglobin. In the Today's Order section, let's choose the requisition that's waiting to be completed. It's the rec for the cholesterol and hemoglobin. There is no missing data for these tests, no AOE questions, at least not required by New Lab. But I do want to show you something I didn't show on the previous test, and that's how to access specimen information and handling requirements for these tests. So, we're ready to print the rec. But we've already reviewed printing, so you've just completed your user training for EMR-Link 2.0. I'd like to wrap up by reminding you that you can find useful information on the EMR-Link website. If you need to contact us with suggestions or non-urgent questions, you can reach us from here. You'll see our monthly release notes in the support section. We're very serious about keeping you apprised of new features and releases. And you'll see information about upcoming events and educational webinars. Thanks for joining us. Take care.